Good afternoon. I'm Maggie Leone, the Human Resource Generalist at Crosspoint Clinical Services. And today we are going to do a training and be discussing Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, also HIPAA, Privacy and Security Training. One of the most important federal healthcare laws is HIPAA. HIPAA includes things like provisions that regulate health information privacy, portability and continuity of health insurance, administration of health insurance, medical savings accounts, and long-term care insurance. But the part of HIPAA and what this presentation addresses is the HIPAA privacy rule, and that's what most people are referring to when they talk about HIPAA. So that's a part of HIPAA that we need to know. And it's because we need to know this because we want to make sure that we keep our clients' health information private and confidential, safeguarded, and also we want to keep our employees' information, health information, very private as well. So most employees at Crosspoint Clinical Services have direct access to client information and also have a legal and ethical obligation to protect patient privacy. The HIPAA privacy rule gives employees and clients rights over how their health information may be used or disclosed and protects the unauthorized disclosure of medical information known as protective health information or PHI. The HIPAA privacy rule requires covered entities to handle PHI very cautiously. It established limitations on who can view and receive health information, whether it is in an electronic, written, or oral form. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services enforced the HIPAA privacy rule. The security rule protects an individual's healthcare information that is maintained or transmitted electronically. It defines administrative, physical, and technical safeguards for electronic PHI or ePHI. And the security rule also does require corrective action for employees who fail to comply with the security policy and procedures. Basics of the privacy rule or PHI. So what exactly is PHI? PHI relates to the physical or mental health condition of an individual at any time. So it can be past, present, or future. Identifies or can be used to identify an individual. So, for example, someone's name, address, date of birth, social security number, account number, all those things identify someone. So they're considered PHI. Health information that is electronic. It can be in paper form, spoken in conversations among clinicians, medical images, medical records is all PHI. Anything that is in the possession of or has been created by covered entities is considered protected health information. You can find PHI in many different ways. PHI may be included in things like healthcare claim forms or encounter information, healthcare payments and remittance advice, coordination of benefits, healthcare claim statuses, enrollment or disenrollment in a healthcare plan, eligibility for a health plan premium payments, or referral certification and authorization. PHI identifiers. So PHI includes the following identifiers. So right here, as you see on the screen, there are 18 different PHI identifiers. So they range from things like name to biometric identifiers to social security numbers. So all these things are PHI identifiers. So, but to de-identify something, all of these 18 identifiers must be removed. De-identification. So removing someone's name is not enough to de-identify them. Think, could a client identify themselves? Just say someone's name's not there, but their age or the state they live in and maybe their diagnosis are there. That may be something that can identify them. Could the client's family or friends identify the clients even without the name? So if you're creating a case report, clinicians must de-identify the patient identifiers or have an executed authorization from the patient. For example, if someone's writing an article and you include a client's demographic information and the client's diagnosis, then an authorization is necessary. Sharing PHI. So the HIPAA privacy rule states that PHI should only be used and disclosed for specific reasons. And some of these reasons are for treatment, for payment of health services, for healthcare operations, as authorized in writing by the client, for other circumstances described in the privacy rule. For example, law enforcement, public health, FDA adverse event reporting. How much PHI may be shared? So it's always a minimum necessary or need to know. Unless disclosing PHI for treatment purposes, you may only access and share minimum necessary amount of information you need to accomplish the task that you are trying to accomplish. So if someone doesn't need to know it, then you shouldn't share it. Clients do have a right to request certain disclosures of their PHI, but it excludes disclosures made for payments, treatment, and healthcare operations and client authorization. So if you receive a request to share PHI and are unsure whether you should release it or you don't know what to do, always contact your supervisor to clarify, because it's better to ask than do something that you shouldn't have done. Other ways to protect client information is always protect spoken information. So if someone tells you something, make sure that you keep it confidential. And if you are talking with another person about a client, just make sure that it's in a private room and you're speaking very softly so someone can't overhear. And of course, never talk about clients in public places. Keep your doors closed when you're in a session. Ask clients' permission before speaking about the patient's condition in front of anyone. So there are different ways that you can protect PHI in a written form. One thing that you can do is, if you're expecting a fax, just make sure that you're at the fax machine ready to receive it. Also, never leave anything by mistake on a printer or a copier. And never throw anything in the trash that has PHI on it, or even rip it up. Make sure it's shred. Always make sure that you lock client files and keep the PHI away from the public view. And there are ways of protecting electronic health information. So always make sure that when you are using your computer and it has PHI information on it, that the screen isn't in a position where someone can see what's on it. Even if it's in like a window and someone can look in the window and see it. And also always log off and secure your workstation when leaving. And make sure that your passwords are strong, and obviously never share your password with anyone else. And if your computer happens to get a virus, make sure you report it. Keep portable devices secure. and properly dispose of mobile devices. In summary, the HIPAA privacy rule gives clients rights on how their health information will be used or disclosed. It protects unauthorized disclosure of medical information known as Protected Health Information, or PHI. PHI is a health condition, mental health or physical health of a person in the past, present, or future. And there are identifiers that can identify an individual. And remember, there were 18 identifiers, such as name, social security number, address, date of birth, diagnosis. So in order to de-identify someone, it takes a lot more than just removing someone's name. Clinicians can share PHI information on a need-to-know basis and a minimum necessary standard so that clinicians can do their job. But remember, if someone doesn't need to know it, then you shouldn't tell them. And also, just give them the minimum necessary information that they do need to know. Clients, you have a right to a disclosure of PHI in certain circumstances. And remember, if you have questions regarding HIPAA, then you should ask your supervisor. So that concludes this training. Thank you so much for listening and have a fantastic day. Thanks.